It's 9 o'clock. This is the regular meeting of Mills County Commissioners Court this Monday, November 22nd. All members of the court are present. We have a quorum and we will proceed to do business. If you would join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Commissioner Williams, would you lead us in prayer?
Dear Heavenly Father, be with us today as we do the business of Mills County. God is and direct us in all of our actions. Be with us as we go through this holiday season. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. We have a larger crowd than usual, so let me start with reminding everybody to please mute your cell phones. With this many people, if they start going off, it'll be really disruptive. The first item on the agenda is action on the minutes of November 8th. Has the court had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Make a motion the minutes be approved as written.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of November 8th. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Audience with individuals, we have three people signed up to speak. Don Kishar, Janelle Runyon, and Mark Toppert, all of whom are listed to want to speak about the resolution on the Mills County constitutional, the county resolution. Mr. Kissar, do you wish to speak now or when we get to the item on the agenda? Okay. Ms. Runyon?
When we get to the agenda.
Okay. And Mr. Topper.
I'll do the same.
Okay. Mr. Kissar, if in the interest of time, if you would like to go ahead and speak now, we have, since many of y'all were last here with the proceedings being on YouTube and Zoom, we use a lectern with a microphone so we can pick up all the sound. So would appreciate your using it and move the mic around so it's as close to your mouth depending on your height. And the clerk will be maintaining the time record on it for you. Go ahead, Mr. Kissar.
Judge, Commissioners, we're all here today to let you know the very large part of Mills County citizens are asking you to endorse a resolution affirming that Mills County is a constitutional county. In other words, you all and we, the citizens of Mills County, will stand behind our United States Constitution. Our Governor Abbott, has signed laws that are protecting the citizens of Texas from the unconstitutional mandates being established by Washington and the current administration. He's standing by the Constitution of the United States. We are asking you, our county leaders, to uphold these same laws by affirming that Mills County is a constitutional county and you are protecting the rights of citizens provided for by the Constitution. We're all guaranteed by the Constitution from government and country. All that we're asking is that we have your assurance that you will do everything you can to protect these rights. Our present administration is trying to circumvent our Constitution. They do not care about the average citizen's rights as long as they get what they want and maintain control. The forefathers of this country are represented in this room. They came here to establish homes and businesses. They were provided these same rights that our Constitution provided for us. In the past, everyone understood that these rights belong to all citizens. No one questioned this. Now things are different and we cannot take these rights for granted. We must stand up for our Constitution. We cannot lose these rights. I helped install a water heater last Saturday at Star. These people's home is in Dallas. The man was an Armenian, a retired physician. His wife was born in Sweden. They both said that they left their homelands to get away from socialism and socialistic medicine. They said that what they're seeing in this country is what happened in Europe in the 1930s, and we sure don't want it. The lady said she saw her friends die because they didn't rank high enough to get the care they needed. Both of them stated they're very disappointed in the direction the government's going in this country. I signed this resolution, you're affirming the oath of office you took when you took this job. Someone also signed certification stating that you did indeed take this oath. Brown County has adopted the same resolution as have other counties. We, the people of Mills County, are asking you to adopt this resolution and give us the assurance that you will uphold the Constitution of the United States. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda is the approval of accounts payable. This was distributed Friday electronically as the court had the opportunity to review it.
I had a couple questions on page 2, Judge.
Yeah, I got the same question that I got. It's mine. It should be mine.
Okay, precinct 1, at first on the John Deere financial, that bill of $1,627.90, that's already been paid. That was turned in on the 9th month, and Judy told me that she'd already paid it, so that shouldn't be there. And also,
Okay, so we're not going to, this would a potential duplicate payment.
yeah,
And
she said that
we're not.
they sent it back, the financial.
Okay.
They said that they had to send it back, but anyway, it's been paid, she said.
Yes. And I believe they talked you talked this morning and she was.
Yes, when I saw the bill, I went to John Deere and asked for a bill of it, which I got a bill, and I said,
Okay,
through John Deere Financial, it already been paid. And the
okay,
next item, the 99th annual CJCA of Texas conference, that was in Round Rock. I had a plan to attend that conference, and I had to have some medical procedures, so I didn't get to make it. And I do have a cancellation where I canceled it, and I think Mr. Williams went to that meeting. That should be
I did.
just $300 instead of precinct 1. So
okay. You were able to go on
I went to
Commissioner.
his place. Yeah,
Okay.
basically, yeah. But that needs to come out of my account.
Okay.
that's all I have.
Other questions on the payables?
I believe we approve this presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the accounts payable. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, number 5, consider an act on appointments to Mills County Welfare Board. These are appointments that fall on the Commissioner's Court of the county to make annually. Commissioner Williams, is there anything you would like to say about this list of 7 names?
A few of the previous ones bowed out this next year, so there's everybody's the same except for the new one, Janelle Runyon has been added to the board there, and we lost 2. One of those that we lost was Mr. Shunky, who passed away. So
Okay, so it's Mike Williams, Jason Williams, Paula Gore, Janessa Stegmeiler, Stacy Hodge, Deb Garza, and Janelle Runyon. That's correct?
That's correct.
Any discussion from the court? All in favor, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped. We need a motion. Yeah. Is there a motion to approve the appointments to the Mills County Child Welfare Board for the upcoming year?
I believe we appoint these individuals to that board.
Okay, I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? On the Mills County Child Welfare Board front, they have the bylaws of the board in your package for approval by the court. Commissioner Williams, anything you would like to add?
These are bylaws that basically pass down that the regional child welfare board sends to them, and you just kind of change your names and headings and stuff like that. And then you can make it suitable to you. We and San Saba have kind of pretty much the generic, the actual same bylaws there. Again, you can see on Article 3, it says 7 members, no more than 15. You got a chairman, a chair, a vice chair, secretary, treasurer, and then the regional delegates.
And the board that we just appointed will elect those officers.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we don't need to be involved.
No.
Any questions from the court? Is there a motion for approval of the bylaws of the Mills County Child Welfare Board?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll say it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, consider an act special budget amendment, hail damage insurance proceeds and repair costs. There's several types of budget amendments. There's emergency budget amendments and special budget amendments and line item budget amendments. A special budget amendment is something like a grant or insurance claim that wasn't knowable at the time the budget was prepared. At the same time, it's not an emergency. What we have here as a special budget amendment is the two sides of the hail damage. We have at this point a commitment from our insurer, Texas Association of Counties, to pay the claim. We have estimates. We've already paid the deductible was absorbed in the last fiscal year. So what this does is set up in the county budget a revenue line of for insurance proceeds of $181,780 and an expense line under courthouse maintenance for repairs and maintenance in the same amount. This isn't the authorization for the work. This is just getting the budget in place to receive it. TAC has offered at this point to start advancing insurance proceeds in advance of us even having the bills. And I will be making a request for an advance today, but wanted to have, since the budget amendment part requires court action, have the budget in place to receive that money. Are there any questions?
And so this has to do with this roofing that you got us, is Paragon Roofing is in this total here.
Yes, it is. I mean, the next item on the agenda is one specific piece of this.
Oh, okay.
But first of all, is dealing with the overall issue of the special budget amendment to put the revenue and expense side in the budget.
I make a motion, we approve the special budget amendment for hail damage insurance proceeds and repair costs.
I'll second that. So we've made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now, following up on that is one contract. This is Paragon Roofing. It is a contract that is through TIPS, which is a shared purchasing cooperative, which therefore complies with the Purchasing Act. It's $106,799 even, and it has been approved by our insurance company for payment. This is the copper flashing repair and some other copper fittings on the roof of the courthouse and the shingles on the 1888 jail, which will be replaced. So this is a specific contract. They are ready to start work, and the insurance company is ready to advance the money when we accept the contract. will be two other contracts, one you've seen for the Christmas light repairs, and one which we have not seen yet, although we have estimates, and that is on the windows, which will be the glass repair in the 1888 jail and resealing, and in some cases repairing and repainting, replacing and repainting damaged sills and window frames around the courthouse. That's the piece that's not in as a contract yet.
So when we agree to this contract, are all three of these contractors gonna be here at the same time, or are we gonna have any problems?
No,
Is
the
guy gonna be in charge of scheduling?
the guy's in charge of scheduling. We could have had them all three at once. We thought there would be traffic problems with three lifts. The Christmas lights work starts Monday, I believe, and the roofing repairs comes after Christmas. This could be a January issue.
Okay,
If we accept this bid, Judge, on the acceptance of it,
Yeah,
what does the city have to do with the county? If accepted, the city will need to simply issue a purchase order. What is that all about?
this is a problem we've periodically run into working through our consultant who has a background with the Texas Municipal League and with TIPS, which is a purchasing co-op largely with school districts and cities. It's verbiage we're going to have to change.
It means the county. instead of
It means
city.
the county.
Okay.
Yeah, they sloppily used a form that they're used to using and didn't realize they're dealing with the county, although it's clearly made out to Mills County.
Sure.
City will have nothing to do with it.
well, with that correction of the word city to county, I make a motion that we approve the hail damage repair proposal.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion. Who seconded?
Jeff,
Okay. Commissioner Guerin. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Consider and possible approval on the final plat for Rolling Oaks subdivision in Mills County. John Ed Stevens from Stephan Holdings is present in the courtroom. This is not ripe for final approval. There were a few missing items, but there were also, I invited Mr. Steffens here because we had some things we probably wanted to talk about. In your package, you had the Corex water supply agreement and the homeowners agreement. And Don King, the county designated surveyor, has the plans. When I last talked to him Friday, he was still reviewing them and in contact with Mitchell Engineering, who is the engineering firm working on the subdivision. I don't have the outcome for that. The specific issues that this is lacking from our checklist were tax certificates from Lampasas County, because this subdivision is in the Lomita ISD. So the developers submitted tax certificates from Mills Central Appraisal District, which is proper, showing that the county taxes were paid for prior years and the current year. But it didn't address the school district taxes because MCAD does not bill nor collect school taxes for Lomita. So Mr. Steffens is going to get the Lomita tax certificate. And the other issue had to do with perk test. Mitchell Engineering is working on that. The developer submitted some engineering reports about soil composition and likely absorbency. But our 1985 ordinance requires an actual perk test, which is defined not in the ordinance, but in the statutes, as we're digging holes and measuring how fast it takes water to absorb. That has not been done. And so either needs to get done to comply with the ordinance or a variance needs to be requested. But with all of that background, Mr. Steffens, is there anything you would like to add or say to the court? Yes, please.
Thank you, Judge and Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to bring you up to date on the project. As we corresponded last week by email, I did with Judge Smith. The engineering firm prepared the soil analysis report, as that's become the standard in the state for about the last 20 years over perk tests. And as we discussed dialogue in email, we did not do the percolation test because they went with what has been state standard. So I would request a variance that our soil reports are ample because they give the data that's necessary to understand. We do have suitable soils throughout the project. We did sample 10% of the acreage. So we have a cross section that's called for in the subdivision regulations. So I would ask for a variance in that this is acceptable as it's a state standard, it's accepted elsewhere. And if that's not granted, well, then obviously we'll do the percolation test.
Could you answer a couple other questions for us that I had after reading the water agreement and the homeowners agreement? The developer is installing, as a condition to getting the water service, you're installing all the lines.
That's correct.
And their responsibility to deliver the water is not until those lines are installed and paid for. And then I think, are there other conditions?
There's a condition up in there as well for a 2-year maintenance bond.
Right. Okay.
That we would supply to courts.
Will you be asking the court to file your final plat before the work is all done in reliance on payment bonds, or will you be asking for approval of the plat subject to the work being done and accepted and then filed once the work is done?
We're going to ask that the first phase that we've submitted go to final prior to the utilities being installed. That process is underway, but we're going to ask for a final.
Based on the provision of completion bonds or payment bonds.
Right.
Um,
Which that would obviously be supplied to courts because they're the ones that are beneficiary and they will take over that system once we complete it. So they're the entity that would need to be guaranteed, not the county.
Well, I mean, the county, once we've filed the plat, in effect, we've accepted it, and anybody that buys a lot has the right to assume that whatever is shown on that plat's there. Am I misreading that?
No,
So
you're
if
not misreading, but it can be there or it can be installed. I mean, obviously that it's not going to be all installed at the
right. I'm just pointing to the county's responsibility that we feel on the water.
So
that if they're buying a lot,
responsibility over a private entity such as courts, when the developers are providing the line and we're dedicating that to the utility.
all we're responsible for is the filing of that plat.
Okay. Likewise with the roads will remain private, and we'll put up the construction bond for the subdivision ordinance. But the county's not going to have any expense in maintaining those roads because those roads will be private.
That gets to my second question. Under the homeowners agreement, the developer has the right to pull lots out of the HOA. And you also have the right, I think, to re-subdivide the lots. And with I believe there was a floor in there of not to be less than 12 acres. And most of your lots in the first 30 years are 20 acres, rough off the top of my head, ish. And at that 20-acre level, there's enough Corex taps to serve the majority of the subdivision.
Right.
If the lots were all to be re-subdivided, all of a sudden there could be, over the whole development, 150 lots relying on groundwater.
So what we
And
can
that
do is we can add
concerns us.
language to that HOA agreement that says the developer will not subdivide past the point of the number of taps that we've been given by courts, which is 165.
That would address that
We
concern.
can put language in there.
Yes.
So we will never go beyond that. We will
Yes.
Only go with what, and as you know, we have some existing wells, but we're only going to work off what we have.
Right, as I
We're only
recall.
just going to be,
benefit to them, yeah.
There were 6 of them and they were designated on the preliminary
master
plat.
plan.
I'm sorry, I've been doing all the talking, guys. What questions does the other members of the court have?
The only thing I have, in reading the Forex agreement is, page 5, the water conservation deal, which I guess that would kind of be the same if it was a private or, the Gulfway entity. But, we still go back to that. You're depending on a specific water system in drought cases, and we are going to have drought cases in Mills County. We always have. And, there are drought contingency plan, which I know the city of Gulfway has done it before. But they could, to me, with that many lots coming off that small a water supply, really curtail the water usage, even to the point of just working for a household. As opposed to a water lodge or whatever else comes with it, because the holding pond down there is not that big. And I don't really think they have a total backup water supply to that holding pond. Do they?
So I can't address what they have. We rely on Corix and their engineers, and they've advised us what they can supply. I'm not an engineer. I have to rely on the utility. So I believe that the utility has the intelligence not to oversell. I believe that they do want to service their customers. And I also agree with what you said. Yes, this is Texas, especially Central Texas, and we live in drought times. And even at those drought times, people's water wells suffer when the table drops. So going back to when we submitted our preliminary plat, as I said, we wouldn't consider this and we wouldn't have that commitment for water, because as we know, people need water. So I put my confidence that Corix knows what they're doing, and that they have long-term plans, because they also have to answer to the TCEQ for what they're doing.
Yeah.
And
But they have also, during the same time they're dealing with y'all, they have went different directions supposedly with their water supply.
different directions in regards to
Like toward directions, like toward Kemper.
Oh,
And that's all hearsay.
sure. Well, I mean, we've got a commitment from them that
Yeah.
she's seen in writing, so they pledged to deliver that if we install the system.
That, I guess the other thing too, is we may have to fall back to those holding tanks, because my understanding is this 35 pounds of pressure is not enough water for your fire departments and stuff.
So there is a pump station on the pump. Yes, there is. There's a large holding tank and a pump station on the project. And as we discussed at an initial meeting with Commissioner Wright and Judge Smith, there aren't any county regulations for fire hydrants. However, we're going to get with Corps engineers as the line's being installed. And it most likely will be somewhere along the road frontage, down Road 429. It may even be at the pump station, but we are going to put in a fire hydrant. So the county's fire department will be able to draw water during an emergency situation.
Are you talking with our volunteer fire department as you do that?
I have not spoken with Glenn, no, and I certainly will, but we need to once get underway with courts and find out what's the most suitable place, and then we'll make sure the access for that water is suitable for volunteer fire department.
Commissioner Gearing, Commissioner Wright, this is your backyard.
Yes, sir, it is. I have several of them in my backyard.
Yeah.
But they're all done fine, so I don't have a question.
Okay,
Wait a minute, Judge, I do have a question.
okay.
You sent me a memo about some road work. What was your concern on it?
I just wanted your input. The court has to set a bond. The developer has said, and he sent me some information, helped me with the numbers, but it was roughly 12,000 feet of roads
That's what
and a number of the costs that it worked out to be about $40 a foot. And since you maintain and build roads in that area, I wanted your input on, is that number reasonable? Is it high? Is it low?
Well, I don't know his landscape and horns he has to put in and all that. Of course, what you sent me was $502,240. Won't know with 12,000 linear feet. Can I do it? I couldn't do it because I don't have 300,000 in my budget. So
No, that's the question. Wasn't it was? Is that price reasonable?
I can answer that for him.
No, but you're answering it for the county because the county has to approve the bond. And the purpose of the bond is if the developer doesn't, for whatever reason, finish the roads, there's a bond there in an adequate amount for some other contractor in the market to be brought in to finish the work.
Yes.
So your answer is yes, that's enough. Okay, that's what I was trying to find out.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're not going to be building the roads.
Yes, well, I didn't think so either. And when you asked me that question, that kind of money, I couldn't do it for that. I mean, I don't have the money.
Right, but
Understand.
okay. Mr. Hale, we would appreciate any guidance you have for us.
Well, I might just throw in, I got a text from Mr. King about the time I walked in this morning saying that he was good to go with the technical aspects of the survey and the plan. So I guess that's an approval on his part. I don't know if it is or not, but he said he was okay with the actual technical side of the plan.
To give his request on a variance for this perk test, does that need to be in writing? Or can his?
Well, it'd be in the form of the approval of.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it would be nice if it was, but I think it's legally sufficient for what we're doing.
And so we still like a couple things, is that right? To make sure this is.
We have the variance request. We don't have a perk test. So we either wait to get one or we grant a variance and work on the soils test. And there was the issue of the tax certificate from Lomita ISD.
And the land passes, one of the taxes have been paid. They just could not prepare a certificate last week. They're going to call me one day this week and they'll have a certificate and I'll deliver it to your office.
Just because we've been through this once out in my precinct, the 10% perk test on that one ended up yielding different types of septic systems. So supposedly they did the 10% in different terrainage on the lane.
The engineers dictated where they were to do the actual soil analysis. They didn't just go from the soil map. They went out and they dug soil analysis. And that's all in the reports that I provided to the court.
Well, I mean, there's steps where we could vote on the variance. With regard to the final approval of the plat, that takes court action. What we need is a bond. What we need is that tax certificate and the decision on either the variance or the perk test. Our next court meeting is December, 9th or 12th. Thirteenth. Will that work for you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, let's deal with the variance then while we're here. We have a request from the developer for a variance for the requirement for a perk test and offered in lieu a engineered soils test. Have I stated that correctly?
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion to grant the variance?
I'll make that motion.
Is there,
I'll second it.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Now, any discussion?
I think that needs to be the perk test, but
Okay. Mr. Guerin, do you have input?
Shouldn't we run that by the king or what's his name?
I talked to him Friday. He confirmed that the soils test was standard, although Brown County still uses a perk test. So
So he's
It's-
sewer with.
yeah, well, he just pointed out that a lot of places do it one way and some places do it the other. I'm kind of with Commissioner Parton that maybe I'm just old fashioned, but I understand perk test and they're specific and they measure the absorption into into a specific site rather than the likely effects of a type of soil across a broad area.
I thought that's.
But still, we're only dealing with 10% of the lot. So, you know, that we could hit good ones or bad ones. But, okay, any other discussion? We have a motion then and a second to grant the variance and substitute this engineered soils report for the perk test. All in favor, say aye. We have 2 ayes. All opposed, say nay. Nay. 3 nays. So we want to go with the perk test.
And we'll provide that prior to the next commissioners court meeting along with the bond and the tax certificate.
Okay, and we will put it on the agenda, be ready to deal with it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, and don't forget, you were going to make that small amendment in the homeowners agreement.
Yes, sir, certainly will.
Number 10 was discussed, the Citizens Advisory Committee subdivision ordinance recommendation is Mr. Roundtree. You got a firsthand look at a real one.
You have to adjust it yourself. I know when you're in trouble. I guess first of all, I want to thank you guys for serving as elected officials. Y'all got a lot of responsibility, but you got a lot of bosses. So you got a lot of input to the type of job that you are supposed to do. I'll be brief because you do have a full agenda, but I do want to introduce the committee. We had 10 of us committee members that you appointed. Bill Malone, John Brown, Tommy Ledbetter, Jared Johnson. So I don't see anybody else here, but they were Kerry Harper, Wesley Peters, Cowboy Love, Mike Williams, Monty Carlisle. This was not a group of shrinking violets, I can tell you that. Everybody had an opinion, and most of them didn't mind questioning your opinion, which is good, I think, for a committee. But I want to thank Jackie Brooks, and we all do for the work that she did. She really was a tremendous amount of help, because we changed this thing numerous times, and in the evening I'd send her an email, and the next morning it'd be ready to go. So we just appreciate very much her help. Our first meeting on October the 5th, we have done a considerable amount of research. We've reviewed numerous ordinances, and we've discussed this thing at length. And I mean at length. We attempted to track the Brown County ordinance just for ease of administration, but we felt like the Brown County ordinance was a little too general, so we did add some specifics to this. It has been unanimously approved and recommended to you by our 10-member committee. Although the ordinance is 53 pages long, excuse me, there are 13 pages of just general provisions and definitions in the front of the book. In the back of the book, there are 19 pages of The plant application process, just a checklist of what you should be doing for this ordinance. Within there are 21 pages of subdivision requirements, which include the financial responsibilities and the guarantees that you talked about for the bonds that are required. There are two items that we thought were important. In fact, we had a lot of conversation about it, but were not included in the subdivision ordinance. One has to do with flag lots, and I think you all know what those flag lots are. And second had to do with the tracks that are sold along the county roads that just have driveways from the county road into that piece of property. There may be 5 or 6 of them in a row with very small distance between them. We would hope that you work with your county attorney to see if that could not be addressed through a standalone ordinance, very similar to the standalone ordinance that you did with the Texas water availability survey. We hope that you work with him and see if something can be accomplished about those two. The success of this ordinance depends on its enforcement, plain and simple. I will stop at that. The majority of the county ordinances that we reviewed were a lot more strict on the developers than what we have submitted to you today. Now, either those counties have a lot more staff to be able to enforce those ordinances, or they don't enforce them, one of the two. And we know the latter is true on one of them that we dealt with. Those of us on the committee, we don't know what the county's enforcement capabilities are. That's for you to determine along with your county attorney. So with that being said, I guess I would say, well, so what's next? Where do we go? We presented you with our recommendations. So where do you go from here? What we would recommend is you as commissioners provide your input to the judge and to the county attorney, and let the judge and the county attorney review your input and review our ordinance. And if there's things in that ordinance that we put in there that are not enforceable, we recommend you take them out. We would rather have a less complicated ordinance that can be enforced than a more complicated ordinance that we know that we can't enforce. And after you've completed that review, I think at that time that you'd be ready for the public hearing process and go forward, with that. And with that, I'm going to stop and ask if any of the committee members that are here have any comments that you'd like to make. Anyway, we've had lots of man hours and meetings. We meet for at least 2 hours every time we met. So they've had a lot of input to this particular ordinance. So, but with that, I'll stop in and ask if you guys have any questions or any comments that you'd like to make.
How hard was it keeping it simple?
Sir?
How hard was it keeping it simple?
It's extremely hard, Mike, especially if you want to have something substantial to protect your current residents and future residents. That's what the difficulty was. I think it's a real balancing act. We certainly want to protect the new residents moving in, but we want to protect the people that are here as well. And I don't maybe protect's a bad word. We just want to have the lifestyle that we like to have here in Mills County to continue. So it's a real balancing act. And that's why I think that your county attorney needs to be involved in this process. Because honestly, if we've got something in here that we as a county cannot enforce, we don't even have it.
To be honest, Joe, Judge, I've only read about half of it, so I haven't got the other half done.
Yeah, I don't think this is probably the forum to discuss it line by line. But to get high level, any questions we have to Bobby on the process, how they came up with it, I think we productively should have a workshop. At this point, it'd be after Thanksgiving, and let us as a group just go through it a page at a time. But go ahead, Mr. Commissioner.
Comment, Bobby. Personally, I would like to thank you and all the members of your committee that worked diligently on this to get it done. And for me, you have a heartfelt thanks. Because it was, y'all did a wonderful job. I've read that thing line by line. It's fantastic, and I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Mr. Andre, I have a question. How is it compared to the current one? Did it just did you use a lot of it from the current one, or did you take a bunch out of the current one?
No, we honestly took the Brown County ordinance that the counselor had gone through and changed to meet Mills County.
Right.
And we added to it. We reviewed probably 8 to 9 different ordinances. Hamilton, San Samuel, Lano, Gillespie, Missouri, a lot of those different ordinances. Like I say, some of them were extremely strict. And we tried to pare it down to things that we thought fit, the county. Things like fire protection. It's very limited what we can and can't do. We've got something in here, but it's very, very limited what we can and cannot do. But then again, there's can it be enforced? Again, that's where we think you guys have got to make that determination.
Mr. Hale, anything you'd like to add at this point?
Yeah, I'd like to repeat what Jed said. I mean, I know this group. I met with them a couple of times, and they put a lot of thought in this, and they had some good discussions. Different people had different ideas about things, and they worked all through that. And I want to congratulate the group for coming up with these regulations. I think they did an excellent job. And they be applauded for that. I've given this speech before, and I'm going to give it again just to make sure it takes, and I may give it again later. This commissioner's court, when it adopts a subdivision plat, the court is adopting a snapshot that day of this subdivision plan. And what goes forward from that point on is really not subject to any regulation by the commissioner's court. So what happens after that approval, after the plat is physically filed in the clerk's office and deeds are sold off, this court really doesn't have any regulatory authorization for that. There's not any enforcement after the fact. The enforcement is all before the fact. Put this in a plat and subdivision plan, and we will approve it. Once that's approved, it's done. That doesn't mean this thing can't change at some point in the future. And the developer, depending on what the change is, may or may not come back to the commissioner court for approval, and may be totally lawful in not doing that. So you need to understand that. I know you've all got ideas about how you want these subdivision developments to progress over the years, but there's just so much this commissioner court can do to regulate that. So as you're going through that, keep that in mind. This is what we're approving a plan. Is what we're doing. We don't necessarily have the ability to enforce that plan down the road. But having said, there's some things in these regulations that I don't like, but
I was done on purpose.
and I've told obviously that I don't like, but I'm absolutely willing to go forward with the group because I know that they thought this stuff out, and I can't sit here and guarantee that this won't ever be subject to an attack in court. I'm not going to make that guarantee either, but I still think the regulation is good, in my opinion.
An improvement over our 1985.
Improvement over the ones we've got. I mean, we keep running into problems with the other ones.
Yeah.
Every time we have a few flats, so it's a definite improvement over the old ones.
Thank you. Any other comments from the court?
I'd just like to say, I sat there one of y'all's deals, we appreciate what you guys did. Wasn't for the faint of heart. I heard a little, not arguing, but differentiation. I thought that's successful.
Healthy discussion.
Healthy discussion, but we appreciate y'all.
I do encourage you to work with with Gerald on the flag lots and those entrances, if there's any way you can work with an ordinance, a standalone ordinance for those, I think that would be helpful as well.
And I'm speaking specifically about the flag lots. I don't like the use of the word flag lots because then you get into argument, well, is it a flag lot or is it a flag lot? In my simple mind, I like to make things as simple as possible. And so I suggested instead of even using the phrase flag lot, just have a provision that says any subdivision that includes a lot that runs on a public road has to be at least 125 feet in width on that road frontage. And so that would prevent the flag lots without having to scratch your head and figure out if it's a flag lot or not. If it's a road, if it's not a lot, if it's just a road, then sure, it can be less than 125 feet. But any lot that's going to a public road has to have at least 125 feet. The road, and I'm just saying 125 feet takes a number.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think that would solve the problem and avoid some of the arguments about exactly what a flag lot is.
And you think we could do something along those lines in an ordinance separate from a subdivision ordinance?
Yes, I would prefer it actually in the subdivision regulation.
Okay.
It can be done either way. I know we talked about this earlier about the issue of the culverts.
Yes.
Stacking them side by side. And so I think the county needs an ordinance that addresses that would even apply to subdivisions which are exempt from the subdivision requirements. Just
I think text dot requires like 250 feet between culverts.
No, 400 and something. If
And that wouldn't be possible on these subdivisions, but you could still, because we got a half-mile stretch, it's not
Yeah, no.
9.
On your county roads, whatever the guy over there says you can do.
okay.
The other thing I'd like to say, and this is for the people sitting out there too, since these things have kind of gotten started and rolling, if you want to call it that, it's been amazing how quick they've picked up on try to get rid of the interior lots as a one deal so that they don't have to deal with us. And so, I mean, to me, that's a plus. Because they figured out pretty quick when you buy these places and everything's on the inside, we'll sell to one man. And then by the 10-acre plus acre lot size on the county roads, they're pretty well non-restricted.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Roundtree, and thank the members of the committee that are here. This was, we really appreciate the help and input and recognize the time and effort. Okay, number 11, discuss potential precinct redistricting. This is just a discussion. We have a workshop scheduled Tuesday. What I wanted you to see what we've got in the package. We were able to get to the census tract level information from the 2020 census. And that is the census, by the way, that reflects it's our total Mills County population of 4,456 people, which is down about 400 from where we were 10 years ago. The target for the state for the one man, one vote concept would be 1,114 people in each of the commissioner precincts. And some of the commissioner precincts are more than one voting precinct, and you'll see that in the table. But what we've got based on the new census is we have one precinct, our largest one, has 1,185 people, and our smallest precinct has 977 people. So to get, the state has established some tolerances in a convoluted way to calculate it. And basically we're outside of the tolerances. So that means we need to shuffle where the lines are. And on the bottom part of one of the attachments is just an arbitrary example. It'll never work out exactly this way. But if we were to add 150, move lines to add 150 people to precinct 3 and take the offset, which would be 50 people out of each of the other 3 precincts, we come back with intolerance. Now, you can't ever do it that way because we're moving a census block at a time. And some of the census blocks have no people in it. Some of them have 3. So the numbers are never going to be round like this. But this was an example to show that one way to do it. And we're going to need to move people into our census blocks into precinct 3, which means voting precincts 6 and 8, and move some wherever we're
So
to offset that
when you say
moving out.
census blocks, you're not talking actual registered voters, are you?
No,
You're
I'm talking
actual
about people, warm bodies,
Okay.
warm bodies per the census,
Okay.
which may or may not be. Yeah. Anyway, that's just, what we'll do in our workshop is we've got the detailed maps that show these little census blocks that are literally sometimes half a city block and how many people are in each one. And we can play with it like a Rubik's Cube, how you move things around to get within a tolerance. And I'll reduce this to a model. So as we move a block, we know whether we're making progress or going backwards.
Judge, I wonder how good is the census with COVID and all that?
You know.
I often wondered about that, and
I have 2, but I don't know how you.
I don't know.
Yeah, I suspect it's a little less accurate than usual. But it's what we got. We got to, we deal with it. But I think the overall trend, just because if you look at Mills County over the last 30 or 40 years, which is 3 or 4 censuses, the overall population has been coming down. Remember, that's primary people that live there on a given day. So we got a lot of people with second homes, resort property. And so the place looks busier, there's more traffic, there's more sales tax, but the number of people showing up in the census rolls down. Okay.
If anyway, I want to just say, if there's any way we can, when we go get into this, I want us to be on, I don't want to add more roads to anybody that if we can. And that would be my goal because we're all pretty much equal now. Besides precinct 3, he's already got the most and you're fixing to give him 150 more people. I'd hate to give him even more roads.
No, we're from 15 to 25 miles more than any other precinct, but the whole deal is somehow or another, and it's because area, there's less rural people and actually the town of Goldthwaite is controlling your census. And we're the only precinct that does not come into the city limits in Goldthwaite.
Yeah.
I think if we
Less people live in rural. Maybe the subdevelopments will change.
Only if they're there filling the census forms. Well, that's the Tuesday project. And whatever we come up with, there's a process. I mean, we're going to have to run it, advertise it in the newspaper. There'll have to be a public hearing before we can put anything in place. But we have hard deadlines on mailing voter registration cards out. Those need to be right. So we need to work on this.
When's the deadline for
That's
this?
scheduled for 10 in the morning.
Yes.
So the vehicle registration, our voter's office, she has to have voter cards sent out. It's supposed to be by the 15th of December,
It's going to be January.
but
That's what they're-
but since it's a census year, she gets 30 extra days. So it's the 15th of January. So yeah, we're gonna have to work on this like every week.
Yeah.
I would think, and then we're gonna have to get this public hearing
Yes.
scheduled because we can't just give it to her on the 15th and expect her to get out cards on the same day. So
Okay. Well, with that preview of Thursday, let's move on. Number 12, and this was on the agenda, Commissioner's Wright request last Friday is consider an act on a resolution affirming Mills County as a constitutional county. And we have two people who signed up to speak that wanted to wait until this point. So Ms. Runyon.
We, the Mills County constitutional citizens, have gathered the signatures of over 208 Mills County residents who support and urge you to sign the resolution before you. Now, you might think that 208 people is not a very large number. However, most historians maintain that only 3% of the population of the 13 colonies were involved, and by involved I mean supported and fought in the Revolutionary War. That would be roughly 135 citizens of Mills County that supported and fought in the Revolutionary War. That's just kind of a little guideline there. I'd like to present these petitions. I give them
To the county clerk. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Runyon. Mark Topper, you've signed up.
Good morning. My name is Mark Topper, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Mills County constitutional citizens. Today, I will present 3 points. First, America is exceptional by design, but not luck. Second, I will describe the current state of some of our freedoms. And third, your role to help restore and maintain those freedoms. Let's start with the trip to Mexico. Most of us have been there, and you don't have to look far to see the constant turmoil, squalor, crumbling infrastructure, and crime. Yet largely the very rich and the very poor, with not much in between. Mexico has all or more of the natural resources that we do have in the United States, yet we see very different results compared to our country. America is roughly 4% of the world's population, yet we produce 25% of everything in the world. American exceptionalism is best described as the unprecedented stability, freedom, and prosperity that is a result of the institutions and policies produced by a unique governing philosophy. Picture a tree. The fruit represents our stability, freedom, and prosperity. The trunk and branches represent our institutions and policies. 3 branches of government with checks and balances. The roots represent the underlying philosophy, which are the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. However, when we cut and erode those roots, our Constitution, we're destroying the ability of the tree of liberty to produce the fruit we cherish. In other words, we're becoming more like Mexico. Also, we're killing the golden goose. Think of our Declaration of Independence as our nation's birth certificate. Found in just 2 paragraphs are 5 timeless principles. First, the acknowledgement that there is a divine creator. Second, our rights come from God, not from governments established by men. Third, governments exist to protect those God-given rights. And fourth, there is a fixed moral law. And finally, fifth, the powers of government come at the consent of the governor. We're the only country in history to ever incorporate these 5 principles into our national fabric. That's why, for over 200 years, America has remained exceptional among the nations of the earth. In the Declaration of Independence, part of the last sentence states, we pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Did it really cost the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence, along with their wives and children, their lives and fortunes? Well, 5 were captured by the British, were tortured, and then died. 9 died from wounds or hardships of the Revolutionary War. Many completely lost everything and died penniless. Other signers lost their wives and children. Now let's look at where we stand today with some of our freedoms. Freedom of religion. This past year, many churches were shut down because their allowed capacity was reduced by 90%. That's like our local Methodist church being allowed to only have 10 people present. We just passed an amendment in Texas to the Constitution prohibiting this state from preventing or limiting religious services. What's sad is that we didn't need an amendment. Instead, we needed a governor and we needed more elected officials with the courage to say, no, no church closures. Read your Constitution. The founders of our country have lived through far worse plagues than COVID. Everything from typhus, yellow fever, and smallpox. They didn't say time out, your rights are suspended when people are sick. Now let's look at freedom of speech. Corporations are working hand in hand with the government to deplatform and shut down any disagreement with the improved narrative. Freedom to assemble. Parents who gather and speak out at school board meetings about what is being taught in their children's schools are now classified by the FBI as domestic terrorists. Freedom to earn. How many thousands of small businesses have been deemed non-essential and forced to close? Ask your fellow Commissioner Dale Parton about the right to work. His wife, like millions of other healthcare professionals, will soon be faced with the decision to get jabbed or get fired with a product already responsible for tens of thousands of deaths. Finally, the Second Amendment. When is it not under attack? Political tyrants know that only the Second Amendment prevents them from taking our rights. We have a president and other oath takers who ignore their oath and allow hundreds of thousands of illegals coming into this country. The population of Waco, Texas, every month. Our representatives should be oath keepers and not oath breakers. The majority of our local community value faith, family, and freedom as the foundation of self-governance before God. We believe local government matters, or we would not be here today. Nothing, absolutely nothing in this resolution prevents you from doing anything you're doing now. This resolution affirms your commitment, along with the citizens of this county, to support and defend the Constitution. Tell Texas that we are free and united. We are awake to the deception and tyranny, and we are aware of our rights, and we will oppose those who would attempt to take our God-given rights. On our behalf, the citizens of Mills County, place your signatures beside those of our founding fathers. What will be the consequences of your silence? Affirm Mills County as a constitutional county. Thank you, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Topper. Just remind the court of the oath we each took when we and every other elected official in Mills County, and for that matter, the state of Texas, was sworn in. We swore that we would faithfully execute the duties of our office of whatever it was in Mills County, which is a subdivision of the state of Texas, and will, to the best of our ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and this state. So help me God. That's an oath we each took within the last election cycle. So
With that, Judge, I brought the petition before the court. And I asked for the court to look at it, and all I was wanting to do is I feel that this resolution reaffirms our commitment to the people that we serve in Mills County. That's the reason I put it on the agenda. I still feel that way.
And do you feel that way, that you move that this be approved?
Yes, sir, I do. I make a motion that we do.
Is there a second to that motion?
I have some questions. Go ahead.
Well, we have a motion. If there's no second, it fails. If there is a second, we'll discuss it. So,
I'm not going to second that. Answer any question.
okay. Then, Mr. Hale, before we take the next step, is there anything you would like to say?
Yes, I sat here and listened to this, and to be honest with you, I take it as a personal insult to me to imply that this commissioner's court would violate. I assume you're talking about the United States Constitution. Since I've been county attorney, the commissioner's court has never done one single thing that intentionally violated any law. The United States Constitution, there's a Texas Constitution also. At this past Texas legislative, the regular session, 666 new laws went into effect on September 1st. That doesn't even count the special sessions. 666, that's an interesting number, I thought, but that's the number. And what are all those laws? Some of them may be declared to be unconstitutional, some of them might not. We're gonna try our best to follow them. We've got Texas Association of Councils, we've got the Attorney General's office in Texas. Both of those resources are valuable in telling us what the law is and what we're supposed to do. I've had several constitutional law classes many years ago. We deal with the United States Constitution on a regular basis in criminal courts in this state. And I learned a long time ago, the United States Constitution says what the United States Supreme Court says it says. Like it or don't like it, that's the law. And I don't think this Commissioner's Court should be a public platform for people to come in here and make political statements. And I don't think the Commissioner's Court should fall into that trap. We do our business, whatever we do in this, we do for the benefit of Mills County. And I don't want to go down this political rabbit hole. You asked for my opinion and that's it.
Thank you. That's pretty clear. But we had a motion. We have no second. So the motion fails for a lack of a second. So that matter is done. What?
Can I ask a few questions or is it over?
I think I'd say it's over. You want to put them in commissioners reports and requests. You do that. Stop it. This is a court and you are not recognized to speak. You did not sign up and we will ask you to leave. Okay, thank you.
Judge, you asked for reports and requests.
Yes, I did.
Precinct 1. We've been repairing 10 horns on County Road 412. We've been hauling material on County Road 506. We repaired a 12-acre maintainer, and we've been working on County Road 327 cutting brush. And that's all I have.
Commissioner Guerin.
We put in some new 10 horns on 338 for an individual, putting one in on 232 to help alleviate flooding problem over on the county road. Something I'd like to say for a minute, Judge. Our windmill people, or wind turbine people, they got together here a while back and they chipped in. 3 of the companies did. Nortex chipped in 2,000. Blattner, who's in construction, chipped in 1,000, and NG, the parent company, chipped in 1,000 for a $4,000 total. They made up some Christmas boxes for the less fortunate. Those were delivered yesterday. A lot of the employees from those 3 companies worked at that. Also, a lot of local volunteers. Kristen Hall works for Nordex. They asked her to spearhead that. She got with David Schwartz and they put together 100 boxes, for Christmas for people, and been distributed into the county. Most of them were done yesterday. And I just wanted everybody to know that those companies are working here with the turbines, but they're also supporting the local people in Mills County, especially the needy. And I think they deserve a hand for that. That's it.
I appreciate that. If you want to give me the names or addresses, I'll maybe set up some sort of official thank you. I think that would be in order. Commissioner Parton?
Put in a couple of double 10 horns for a landowner out on 190. We're also starting to haul some base out on other places in 190. Try to get that road in a little better shape than what it has been. Of course, we got the holiday coming up then this week, so get what we can do, get done this week. Yeah.
Commissioner Williams.
Been working out on County Road 550 and 549, doing right-of-way work, culvert work, and drainage work out there. Worked most of the week last week. I stopped to go to Star to Freddie Moore's and picked up the rock crusher. As we got the rock crusher back to our yard, codes come up on the rock crusher saying that the transmission filters need to be replaced. So we've had to put in a order those filters because nobody's got them. They're supposed to be here tomorrow. We'll try to have that up and running, hopefully before we get out of here for vacation for Thanksgiving. And attended a lot of meetings in the last couple of weeks, but staying real busy. Doesn't seem like it's getting ready for the holidays. So, and I'll see if I can get my questions answered on those other things with the committee.
Okay. Judge's report, the Christmas decorations are starting. There'll be us putting the Christmas tree up in the center foyer of the courthouse starting later this morning, if it hasn't started already. Hill Country Transit District has received proposals to provide outsourced management. There are 3 proposals on the table that are being considered. This follows the retirement of the executive director of the district about a year ago. And the Christmas bazaar that was conducted, they did it a little different this year with the community center, not the community center, the civic center out of commission. They actually rented the senior center from the county and used some side rooms and back rooms at South Side and had it working back and forth between the 2 locations. And it seemed to be well attended and well done. So that's all I have. I want to remind everybody that can attend the workshop on redistricting tomorrow at 10. We'll need big tables to spread maps out. So we'll be in this room, and we will schedule workshops on the subdivision ordinance, but don't have that on the calendar yet.
And we might think about rescheduling another workshop for that redistricting tomorrow too.
Yeah, I think let's see how far we get, and because it would have to be probably after Thanksgiving, so we'll have our 72-hour notice period to make the announcement. So is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, we
Adjourn.
adjourn.
Second.
A motion and second, all in favor, say